how do you look in the future about anything, because you don't know what it is? You have an idea of what it is, but that's not necessarily what it is. The only thing you know what it is what you're in right now. You need to know what's going on, and most importantly, you need to know who is who. Not everybody's out there to be your friend, and not everybody's out there to help you. That's just the way it goes.
Welcome to the Be Better broadcast. Today we have an awesome guest. He is a senator in Pennsylvania, and his name is Marty Flynn. And for those who don't know Marty Flynn, Senator Flynn is a resilient figure whose journey weaves through the gritty world of professional boxing to the esteemed halls of Pennsylvania's state senate. Raised in Scranton, Pennsylvania, Marty excelled in sports at Scranton Preparatory School and Marywood University, where he discovered his passion for boxing. Senator Flynn's legacy is that of a fighter, not only within the ring and politics, but as a beacon of hope, showcasing that with resilience, determination, and an unyielding spirit, one can overcome any obstacle and leave an enduring impact on the world. So this is very much the story of a man who discovered what he was passionate about, and through life's tribulations and trials and challenges that he's overcome, has wanted to make a difference and help other people to overcome their obstacles. And we're going to ask him a lot of cool questions. So if you take away any value from this conversation, if you take away even just one insight, if you thought it was cool learning what a senator does, then please share this show with just one other person who could use it as well. So without further ado, Senator Flynn, it's great to have you on the show, sir. Thanks for being here.
Great to be here. Great to be here.
So I'm a hop, skip, and a jump from you. I'm in upstate New York, and I frequently used to travel down to Mansfield, Pennsylvania. So I know that that's not really, that's kind of in the fray.
A little west of me, but
yeah, a little west. So can you help me demystify? A lot of people, everyone knows what a senator is, right? It's an esteemed role. Obviously you've had goals to get to this point. I'm sure you've got goals to go further, whatever that looks like. We'll talk about that. But what exactly does a senator in Pennsylvania, or in general, like what does your day-to-day look like as a senator?
Well, my basic role is appointment of judges, voting on a PA budget, which is roughly $45 billion, and changing laws in Pennsylvania. So it's pretty complex. And then what we do is we help our constituents travel the state system and get things done where things get clogged up. They call our office, and we try to help them permeate the system and get something done that they can't get done themselves because of some bureaucracy or another.
Okay, very interesting.
Interesting, and there's so many facets of the job. So
yeah, I'm sure. Let me ask you this: what do you love most about what you do as a senator specifically?
I just love being able to help people, to be honest with you. It's unbelievable some of the things that you can help people do, and when at the end of the day, when you look in the mirror, you can make yourself feel a lot better about yourself by doing these kind of things. And it was something I never grew up doing, you know what I mean? Public service and helping people. It was never really my forte until I got into this job, and it's so fulfilling once it actually happens and you do things for people. It's unbelievable,
Did you know? So how long have you been a senator now?
About 3 years. Yeah, about 3 years now. And I was a state representative in the other chamber for about 9 years. So
did you ever know that? So I'm going to take a guess at your age. I'm going to guess that I just like to do this. I'm going to guess that you are 44 years old.
48. Yeah.
48. Okay. I was close. So you've been in quote unquote politics now for 13 to 15 years.
About 11.
11 years. Okay. So you've been in politics since I graduated high school and got into sales. So let me ask you this. Did you know 15 years ago that you would be a senator in Pennsylvania? Did you know that you would be a part of politics? Like, how did you find yourself doing what you do now?
Did you ever see the movie Animal House?
No, I've heard of it. I haven't seen it.
Well, John Belushi becomes a senator like years later after this like huge party animal guy. I never thought about it. Let's just put it that way. It never even entered my mind something like this whatever happened to me career path wise. Not in a million years. No.
So how did you find yourself doing what you're doing? Was it one day you, like, to give you an example, recently now, especially with where the world's going, all the current events, everything that's happening, I'm saying to myself, I want to make a difference in the local community. I wonder what it would be like to move into politics, but I don't want to be the person who just becomes a politician. I want to build something great like you built this amazing boxing career. And I want to ask you about that too a little bit later. But I want to build something and then move into it. I don't want to be a career, quote unquote, career politician. But like, did you wake up one day and say to yourself, I want to move into politics. I want to help people. What was that thought process?
It actually happened on kind of like a bet,
Really?
Yeah. I owned a bar years ago, and I was having issues with my license, and I called my state representative, and the guy didn't call me back. And I actually helped the guy before. I had a party for him, and he never paid me. So that kind of like put a bad taste in my mouth. And then, my dad's like, you should run against that guy. He doesn't do his job. He doesn't even call you back. Like, oh, so we started asking people about, my opponent, and nobody seemed to like this guy. So I was like, I could beat this guy. And then before you know it, I was running against the guy, and I beat him.
Wow. What a cool story. So that's when you were in the House of Representatives.
Yeah. Yeah. And I did
Okay.
it for like 9 years. And then the former senator, my seat, he resigned to go take another job. And that opened up the seat. And then that opened up the county Democratic Party got to appoint a person to the ballot. So I jockeyed myself to get them to appoint me to the ballot. So it was like a 400 people in the committee vote for the person to put on the ballot. And, I got on the ballot, became the state senator in a special election. And then I was just reelected last year. So
congratulations. That's amazing.
pretty
Cool. It's one thing when people vote for you, and your principles and your ideals. I mean, you don't have to be here this morning. Like most senators, most people in general aren't on shows sharing what they know, or they go on CNN, Fox. They have like a 1 minute snippet of a soundbite they want to get out. But this is an hour where you're like, I'm going to go on here. I don't know what he's going to ask me, but I'm going to be here. I'm going to share my story and help people. So I think it's a really cool thing how you're a busy guy. I can only imagine. And I heard children in the background. So you've got a family too, right?
a daughter. I have a daughter, 4-year-old daughter. So
awesome, man. That's awesome. Cool. So I think it's great that you're here. So were you into politics while you were building your career in boxing, or was politics something that you really entered into once you started running against this individual, your opponent at the time?
I was fresh, very, very fresh when I first started running. I would read, but I was never, like going to other people's rallies. I voted, but I wasn't like a person who was very politically active. No.
Did you have strong ideals and you knew exactly what you stood for before you started to run, or did you really start to figure those things out when you were actually in the arena?
No, it becomes pretty obvious, basically what your views are and how they align. Like being a Democrat, I'm very working class. My family's all union people, so that is the main thing that identified me as a Democrat, working class union person. I believe in the right to bargain. I believe that's a huge part of our society, the middle class, what's left of it. And that's where I started from, from that angle. I'm considered, most Democrats from cities consider me a Republican, but I'm a Democrat.
Why do they consider you that?
Because I'm pretty middle of the road. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Pretty middle of the road, business wise, pro business, but at the same time pro union, which is like a very, very tough needle to thread, and it works to my favor.
So just to give people an idea of where you stand in general, I'm personally curious because I'm also very ignorant when it comes to this political world. I have my own ideals, of course, but I love to talk to people where those ideals are different as well. Who is a candidate today that you watch their campaign, you look at and you respect them or look up to them? Like you've got RFK, you've got Governor Newsom, who's very likely going to run. You've got all these people out there. Who do you look up to today in terms of what they stand for and how they're doing what they do?
I like Governor Shapiro in Pennsylvania. I think he's doing a great job. He's pretty polished guy. You know,
You spend a lot of time with him as a senator?
No, not a lot of time, but when I need something, he's there, and it's just a phone call away. You know, you don't really bother the governor; they're so busy. But
Sure.
It's pretty crazy.
What about him do you look up to? Why do you look up to him?
I look up to isn't really the word. I don't, you know what I mean? Aspire to be like anybody in a sense.
You aspire to be like what parts of him?
You know what I mean? I don't like oh, I want to be like that person. No, I don't think
there's qualities that you can look up to at the same time.
Qualities that I identify with them. I just look up to me is just is a word that, you know, I don't look up to any man.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how is what you do in politics similar? Like, how do you get your thrill in politics like you did in boxing? Because obviously,
question. That's well, when it's a topic, you know, and you're on the other side of a view of something, you know, that gotcha moment, that's a great way to get a thrill. Like, because no matter what, like people say what they say, you're not going to get anybody to change their opinion on anything. You know, people believe and they just they clutch their pearls and believe what they believe, no matter what. But when you make somebody like look stupid and they still have to like absorb that they still believe what they believe, that's a great feeling. You know, very rarely do you get it.
Yeah.
It's like a knockout punch, you know, because no one will ever say, "Oh my God, you were right, I was wrong," you know. Especially when, you know, as partisan as things are right now, like in Pennsylvania, for instance, but all over the country, as divided as people are, which is, I think, the stupidest thing in the world, you know.
Yeah.
And me as being someone like middle of the road who like does deals on both sides, you know what I mean? I'm all about moving Pennsylvania forward. I could care less what party you're with, and you know, half of my friends are Republicans in the Senate, you know.
Yep. Is it difficult sometimes to navigate doing what you're looking to do with the division that we're seeing in Pennsylvania, but not just Pennsylvania, but everywhere in the United States?
Yeah, it gets difficult because the voice of the people isn't being heard, you know, and enter corporate money, enter Citizens United, where, you know, a corporation is a person, where corporations can virtually funnel unlimited money into political topics. You know, it gets crazy. You know, people become beholden to corporations views. So it does get challenging, but you know, that's life.
Sure.
That's
Yeah.
capitalist system, right?
Yeah. And you're a fighter, man. You've been a fighter for most of your life. So a lot of people, if you ask them, what are you passionate about? Some have an answer. Many don't. They'll sit there and they'll look up to the left or the right and they'll be like, I'm not quite sure what it is that I'm passionate about. A lot of people, there's a hot topic of purpose today, purpose and passion and finding what it is that you're meant to do in this world. Obviously, boxing was a giant passion for you and still is, I'm sure. Was this something that you were interested in your entire life, the art of boxing?
Yeah. Here's the way this goes. It was kind of like a lost hope for me in a way. Like both of my grandfathers were professional boxers.
Okay.
Pretty good professional boxers. And my mom's father didn't have any sons and died young. My dad's father wouldn't let them really box. So my dad was never allowed. He said, if you can't beat me, you can't start boxing. So he didn't let them box. So it kind of skipped a generation. And I always wanted to do it when I was a little kid. And because I'd see the pictures of them on the wall and stuff like that. And I was never allowed to. They're like, no, you're going to college. You're going to do this. So when I went to college, I had the opportunity because I was out of the house. So I went to the gym and just like, it was like, wow. I played baseball, I wrestled, I did everything, you know what I mean? And when I got that boxing gym for the first time, it was like, I'm home. This is home, you know? And 6 weeks later, I was fighting, and my parents didn't know. So
Wow. They had no idea. And you were in college at this time.
they weren't happy when they read that in the paper. I'll tell you that.
That's very interesting. So you had an interest in this for your whole life, but you didn't really explore this passion until college. And you said when you started doing it, you felt like you were at home. We all do things, right? And like when I started playing guitar, I knew that I loved guitar. I played a lot of musical instruments. When my dad bought me the guitar, I was like, this is what I love, right? So I know exactly what you're saying. But for someone who hasn't experienced that feeling, which is more people than you might think, how did you know that you were at home doing this?
It was really weird. It was real. It was just like an innate feeling. Like it was so weird because it was so hard and it was so punishing. You know what I mean? Especially like at that age. Well, when you're like a little kid and you learn, you're basically being programmed. Your mind is like a sponge when you're a little kid, and you just put them in the mirror. You tell them what to do, and they do it. But when you're like 18 years old, you're basically fully developed. It's very hard. Like we get really hard headed, and how to learn. It's very hard to learn boxing at an older age, at a more mature age, like 18 years old. So
That's a more mature age in the world of boxing.
yeah, so you have to think about it like this. Like you're an adult, you start boxing, like you're not gonna stand in a mirror, you know what I mean? You're gonna throw punches all like you're gonna want to get in there and start mixing it up with people who know what they're doing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So process moves faster, but the process doesn't move faster, it moves slower, which gets very, very hard. Gets very tough ego wise to transcend the pitfalls of that sport, and learn how to hit things and not get hit is the trick. And you get hit a lot when you're older and you start when you
What,
start process.
what was there a fear there of, I'm going to get hit. I don't want to get hurt. Like, how did you
No,
push past the fear? Did that even exist?
that boxing finds you. You don't find boxing. It's weird. Like the way it just like pulled me and my adulthood together, and I started doing it. But like a million, like out of a million people that try boxing, there's literally probably 1,000, 2,000 people that would stick with it and fight. You know what I mean? It's a grueling, grueling sport that eats its young. It's,
So a lot of people who listen, I'm sure, are familiar with boxing. I'm not the most familiar when it comes to the people in that world, but for those who are listening, I mean, you're not just some guy who went to a gym and did some fights. Like you've been in the ring alongside people like Ivan Robinson, Mike Stewart. You were a sparring partner to the boxing legend Bernard Hopkins.
yeah,
Like
that
what?
that was awesome. A friend of mine, a kid I met that was because I'm from Scranton, 2 hours northeast of Philly. There was a kid up here who said, yeah, I used to live in Philly. He said I used to train at Bernard Hopkins' gym. He's like, Ivan Robinson's there too. He's like, I'll take you down there if you want to go. So me, you know what I mean, not knowing the social dynamics of North Philadelphia in in the early 2000s, I'm like, yeah, let's go. Hop in the car, drive down there, and it was like something out of Escape from the Bronx. It was in
Wow.
cars on burning blocks. Like my gym, it was called Champs Gym on 28th and Huntington up in North Philadelphia. It was like literally a jungle, like concrete jungle they called it. Wooden floor with like sheets of plywood on the floor, propane heaters torpedo heaters that heated the place. Like it was a rough place, but I learned just so much there. It was such a great place. Met my new trainers that took me in, and taught me the sport of boxing, and this mysterious thing called footwork that us and people in Scranton didn't know.
So the game of boxing was so different there, just 2 hours away from where you grew up.
Yeah. That's basically Philadelphia's the boxing mecca of the world.
Oh wow. And you were familiar with these greats before you met them.
I knew who they were, but you know what I mean. Didn't necessarily know. You know what I mean? Like, it was kind of like, wow, that guy's the champ. You know what I mean? But
And these were people who were masters at this craft.
yes. Yeah,
So what did you observe about them? What did they do different than people who weren't?
yeah. I always tell people like the old timers, like there was probably 10 trainers there, and probably 7 of them were over like 70 years old. So like there was this old, like I always say it was like a Jedi council of like these old trainers that would like sit around the ring and work with, like they each have like 2 or 3 fighters, you know what I mean? And my trainer was one of the younger guys back then. He was probably like 40 back then, 35, and was in with all these guys who like Bowie Fisher, he's Butch Lewis, like all these dudes are like world renowned trainers now. And I was like right there with them. Nazim Richardson, like it was pretty cool. And the other thing is like me and Mike Stewart were the only 2 white people in this gym, and it was just a neat social experience to go there and to be part of everybody's lives in that, you know, that poor, tough, rundown environment, and experience life through that. And being a minority in that atmosphere was pretty eye opening. Yeah, it was pretty.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. What was your goal at the time? Was your goal to be champ, like starting later in that world, starting in, when college age?
I never looked at it like that, to be honest with you. It was like I went to a very, very good high school. I went to a good college. Like on my high school football team, I probably have like 6 doctors on my high school football team. 4 lawyers. The head of the state police in Pennsylvania was on my high school football team. Like my my high school was very, very prominent, very successful people come out of it. Like they feel like, and here I am, like being a pro boxer. All my best friends are in medical school and law school. And they're like, where are you going with this? And it wasn't like that. It was just something I had to do and see how good I could do with it and how good I could be at it. And it like programmed the way my mind worked. It's like, I did learn from that high school, Jesuit high school, the way to think and the way to unwrap problems, so create method, things like that. But this kind of like put it into practice, like mentally have to break down the sport that's basically impossible to be good at. And when I became competent at, I'm not saying that I was like a good boxer, but I could fight. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I did the best with what I had. It wasn't necessarily about being a champion, I would say. It was about overcoming not being able to do something, then becoming able to do it competently.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and I did that, then I like life goes on while this is all happening. You're getting a job, you're trying to make money, pay your bills, all while I'm doing this. It helped. It helped in that machine of things. And then, you just set your focus somewhere else, and it was like adapt, adapt. You know what I mean? Attack, adapt, attack. And then I just brought that kind of mindset to everything I did. Like even like politics, for instance. Like
Mhm.
I'm like, well, when I started talking to people and I'm running, like, well, you got to knock on doors. Make sure you knock on doors. I'm like, I don't have to fight them when I knock on the door. This is easy. You're not
True.
your vote. This is easy. Just have
Yeah.
perspective and get your plan together and work hard. No matter what it is you do. So
Do you follow that philosophy of not having necessarily an end goal in mind, but just challenging yourself to become good at something that you're not? Like when it comes to goals and knowing what it is you want, do you have that same philosophy with politics? You just do something and try to be the best at that something. Do you believe everyone should follow that philosophy, or do you believe it's different for everybody?
it, it's different in this world, in this job, because it's so subjective. Okay, that there's so many issues, there's so many different things you can do, and so many different ways to be effective, there's really no mastery of the position in itself in any way. You could look at it in any way you want and make someone look like a failure. You could look at it any way you want and make somebody look like they're successful at it. It's all has to do with perception. So to me, it's just doing the best that I can, and what everyone else thinks, I really don't care. I'm just trying to help my constituents and be efficient at doing that. So like, there's really no way to measure it. I would say like, oh, this guy passed 10 more bills than you did. Like, yeah, but that doesn't matter. I kept some old lady's light on, her lights on. I got this one. They're able to heat their house because of me. Like, it's really hard to show effectiveness or not. Especially in this job where a lot of people measure their success with money.
Yeah.
And it's not that kind of job or purpose, I would say.
What's up, Be Better family? It's Brandon Eastman here. And as a thank you for tuning in to the Be Better broadcast, I want to give you a very special gift. For a limited time, you can get a free digital copy of my book titled Be Extraordinary, Your Guide to Self-Mastery. This book is packed with insights and actionable steps that will help you to unlock your fullest potential in the 5 key areas of your life. But that's not all. Along with the book, I also want to give you the audiobook version absolutely free. Imagine having the power to transform your life right at your fingertips and in your ears anytime, anywhere. Go grab your copy at bebetterindustriescom/book. You'll also find the link in the episode show notes. Go and grab your copy and join me in making a positive impact on the world. Now back to the show. But you come from a world where you measured your success by, at least in the overarching view of things, when people think of boxing, especially professional boxing, you have a scorecard, right? You've won this many, you've lost this many. It's kind of black and white in that way. Is it weird to go from that world to a world where whether you're doing a good job or a bad job is based on perception?
Yeah, it is. It's different. And it's really weird right now. It's really, really weird right now because, especially Pennsylvania being like such a bellwether state and a real testament to what America is like, from one end of Pennsylvania to the other. It's like when I got there for the first time, I was like, where am I? Kentucky? Like what? And it's just, a lot of Pennsylvania is rural. You have, Philly and Pittsburgh and Kentucky in between, so it's different. It's different. It really is.
So you've been new to a lot of different realms. You were new to boxing. You started laying that. You were new to politics. You didn't grow up saying, I want to be a politician. Like there's a lot of people who are, right? A lot of people who grow up, they say, I want to do this. I want to be president one day and make a giant difference. How do you deal with being new to something? Because being new, especially in the political realm, you're just starting and boom, all of a sudden you're around people who've been doing this for years and years and years and years. How do you deal with being new?
It's like being on the schoolyard. Everything in this society is like being on the schoolyard. And the sooner people get that, the better off they'll be. Keep your mouth shut when you get into a new position. Listen. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Listen twice the time, speak half the time. You need to know what's going on. And most importantly, you need to know who is who. Not everybody's out there to be your friend and not everybody's out there to help you. It's just the way it goes. And, the sooner people realize that, the better off they're going to be. You can't try to be everybody's friend,
When you met these people at the gym who were champions at what they do, what did you take from them that they do different that you continue to use today?
Bernard Hopkins, especially, I was in gyms like all over the place. Like I've never seen anybody train that hard in my life. Like the dude was like, he just brought the whole vibe of the gym like to a different level. Like you worked that much harder because that guy was in there working like that. Like dude was an animal, like a straight animal, and like reverberated through everybody else's training when he was there. It was like it was just awesome, awesome to be a part of, and it was cool to become the guy's friend too. You know what I mean? And like it was just because I was white too. You know what I mean? Everybody thought I was a cop for like 6
I can see that.
Yeah, everybody thought I was a cop for like 6 months. Then when they figured out, you know what I mean, it was just great. And you know, and the other part of being white that was cool was they took notice because I was white. So like
Mm-hmm.
it was like, bah, 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 and then you know they become your friend. It's pretty funny.
Yeah. They're like, what's this guy doing here? You know, this guy he doesn't look like us. He's different than us. Like especially with what you do now, it exposes you to different cultures, different ideas, being in different environments where you don't walk in there, and maybe you did, but you walk into an environment that you're alien to, and all of a sudden that animal part of your brain is like, am I safe here? Am I going to fit in here? Because innately we really all want to fit in, right? And I feel like that's where that philosophy of keep your mouth shut, listen, soak in all the knowledge you can, that garners a level of respect, because you're not the guy coming in saying, this is how I do things, this is how we should do things. Instead, you're listening, right? And that, like you said, that very much is a superpower in that world and in this current world that you're in, and really in any world that someone finds himself a part of.
Yeah, you have to make yourself uncomfortable. That's the greatest part about life and becoming a strong person. You have to make yourself uncomfortable. I try to make myself uncomfortable. It's very hard to do, but I try to make myself and put myself in situations that I'm uncomfortable in, just to become comfortable in them.
So how do you personally train yourself today the same way that he was in there, Bernard Hopkins, just crushing it, reverberating that essence and that idea of hard work and train? How do you personally train to be at the top of your game now?
Oh, body wise, it doesn't happen. Yeah, body wise, it doesn't.
You look good, man. You look good.
But I try. Thanks. I try. I help kids train. You know, I'm training a kid right now a little bit for the Golden Gloves, and it's great to like bring that knowledge that these old guys slammed into my head into this kid. So it's good to like let that knowledge live on, because I think that's one of the most important parts about, like, boxing is a science, and the sooner people realize that, the easier it'll be to teach it. You know, there's a lot of people out there that really have no idea what they're doing and teaching. They're just showing people bad habits, and it's pretty cool to push this information, you know, back into the youth. You know, I now I'm in the political realm. I just bought, like, I made a deal with these guys over in Pakistan. I had like 10 sparring sets made up. I had 30 pairs of gloves made up, 100 wraps made up, and they're sending over, and I'm gonna be giving them out to some of the kids in my community. So
Wow.
they have gear, you know. So I'm excited about that.
So you train in a way by giving back to others, teaching others, right? They always say, we've all heard the quote, when you teach others something, you become better at it as a result.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Yeah, because you understand it through teaching, you know, and it makes you that much more efficient. And you know, you read that 10,000 hours type mindset to be 20,000 become a master. I believe that. I believe that. But such a tough, wild sport that it's pretty cool to have that spectator view now from back here, and you know, teaching a kid and be like, and him looking good, and you're just like, I did that.
Yeah, 100%. It's a really good feeling. How do you translate the concept of putting yourself in uncomfortable situations and the importance of that? Because you have a 4-year-old, I've got a 9-month-old, right? There's a lot of people listening are parents as well, many in the business world. How do you translate that to your children? Because you don't want to look at your children and you never want them to be uncomfortable. You never want them to be in these challenging moments. So how do you translate that to her and teach her the importance of being uncomfortable?
I kind of do want her to.
Okay.
My fiance does not. I get a little pushback, but I take a little bit of yardage here and there. And
So how do you tangibly teach that to a 4-year-old? Like, is that something you started when she was really young? Like, do you just put her in these situations? Do you explain it verbally? How does that actually work?
uh, it's kind of like a come to moment through experiences. I don't try to consciously think about it,
Okay.
where like she's on her exercise bar and she doesn't want to go forward, it's like, you're going to go forward.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. But, um, it could be challenging, Kids
Sure.
way different today than, when I grew up, boy. That's all I could say, especially having her this late. So there's like that whole generation in between. I have
Mm,
44 where, you know, I'm Generation X, and it's like when we were growing up, it was like, get out there. Somebody punches you in the park the park up the street, and you try to come home crying. The door gets slammed in your face. There's really none of that anymore. So
yeah. So what do you want to teach her? Like when she grows up and she's 18, 20, 21, like when she looks back at her upbringing with you, what are some hopes that you have that she thinks back to the time that she spent with you and what you taught her? Because we all say, "Oh, my dad taught me this, my mother taught me this." What would you hope that she says that she learned from your fathering her?
just that she demands respect and knows her worth and her value. That's, I think the most important thing. Just that she never devalues herself like so many people do. I
Yeah,
think it's important to know what you're worth and know who you are.
I think it's great that you do what you do because this the greatest way that we can teach the generations that came after us and our children. And this is a big reason why I have the show. I love doing the show. I love speaking with amazing people. We're almost to episode 370. Like we've had this for over 3 years. And, when I'm not here anymore, or even when I am here and my son grows up, he's going to be able to look back at all these conversations and see that I spoke with you, and he's going to listen to this and be like, wow, that's a really good point. And I feel that by our example, that's the greatest way to teach, right? By you.
Great point for you to have that archive that, someday your kid's going to look back at your, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd never,
And
I'd never think of that,
it's true though. And I'm from what you're doing, she's going to be like, I don't have to do anything. I can go work at a minimum wage job and support myself that way and do this and do that. But you don't have to do what you're doing. Like you don't have to be a senator. You don't have to come on shows. You don't have to build a boxing career. Like, but you did, right? And you jumped into that discomfort. And I think the greatest way to teach that is by showing it firsthand.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. And I never thought I did like, Bill, what are you going to do next? Like, what's next? Like, I don't look at it like that. Like, oh, you're going to move up. What's moving up? Like, I'm a state senator. Like, what's moving up? You know what I mean? I represent 250,000 people. What are you talking about? You know what I mean? Like every public service job is around the same exact money that I get paid. Like, what are you talking about? It's not would I want to represent more people? Possibly, but like you're not going to force yourself into a position. Like people think you go become this or you're going to be the governor. You're going to be like, I don't look at like, why would you look at it like that? Like if an opportunity presents itself where you think you have a viable pathway to get there, maybe, but you know what I mean? Like my seat alone is like basically a $2 million race. You know what I mean? My special election was $1.2 million in 7 weeks. I had to
Wow.
raise $1,000 in 7 weeks. You know what I mean? Like this, you don't just push your way into these things. You know what I mean? In this system, so like it's crazy the way the average person's mind thinks about these issues. You know what I mean? Like, and then like they'll say, "Oh, somebody helped you do that." You're like, "Yeah, a lot of people helped me, but trust me, I did this by myself." You know what I mean? It's crazy. It's crazy.
You know, I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins, and he says that people look at the world in several ways. You can look at the past, you can look at the present, and you can look at the future. And we're predisposed based on childhood and the way we grew up to look at one of those things in a more predominant way. So a lot of people that a lot of people that we both know maybe look at the past a lot, and they're always thinking about what went wrong and I should have done this, and this is my successes in the past. And then there's people who are in the present. I want to do the best that I possibly can right now with the resources I have. And then there's people who are constantly looking at the future. I like where I am, but I want to be here. I want to have this. I want to do this. I want to travel here and accomplish this. It very much sounds to me from this conversation that you're someone who is in the present moment most of the time. You want to do the best with where you are right now. Like when you wake up in the morning, because there's a lot of people would argue with what you say, and they'd say there's value in looking ahead. There's value in saying, I'm Senator Flynn and I want to be the governor in the future, because if you have that goal of I want to be the governor, then the actions you take in the present are based on where it is you want to go in the future. So from what you're saying, it sounds like you wake up in the morning and you're like, this is what I'm going to do today in order to create a better life today versus looking ahead.
But how do you look in the future about anything, because you don't know what it is? You have an idea of what it is, but that's not necessarily what it is. The only thing you know what it is what you're in right now.
Yeah.
Basically tomorrow is a rumor. Today
Yeah.
it exists. So and people talk about being these things that they don't even know what they are or what it takes to get there.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So that even gets.
But you can learn what those things are. You can learn what you have to do to get there.
Yeah, you can only learn by being them in the moment.
That's fair. That's fair.
That's why, like, I'm so focused on the present anymore. Good, bad, and different. Like whatever it is, it's right now. Like Napoleon said, "Space I can recover, time never." You know what I mean? Right now, right now.
So you're a big proponent of I'm going to do the best I can right now, and when an opportunity presents itself, I can take that opportunity.
The harder I work right now, the easier things get for the future.
Wow. That's a really interesting perspective, man. It's a different perspective than a lot of people who come on here, and I completely understand where you're coming from, and I see the value of the present, and I see the value in looking forward, but you have a lot more life experience than me, so yours is coming from a place of experience versus theory. So what would you say to...
Especially in boxing, all the work you do is in the present and then becomes the past. And then when you get in the ring, that is the most present moment. Like, trust me, in your entire life for any person, when you walk up those steps, like there isn't steps that can hold a coward. You know what I mean? When you get it, like, you're going to find out who you are and what you're about really, really quick, when you get in that ring. And that's the present mindset, that I try to bring that into everything, and to perform in that spot. All that practice you did in that present moment that becomes the past, that all shows up in there to some degree. Yeah. And which is crazy, because sometimes it doesn't. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you get in there and your legs just aren't working like they always do, or your arms aren't moving, and it's like, how are you going to adapt? Or the ring isn't as bouncy as you thought it would be. Or isn't as big as you thought it would be. It's a smaller ring. Like, there's so many variables that help determine the outcome of your performance, that you have to deal with these certain things, like, and how you're going to perform. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. I love that perspective. So you went from doing what you were doing before politics to immediately jumping into the House of Representatives.
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody who wants to be a more active part of their community, who wants to move into the political world? Obviously, you saw an opportunity to jump into this world, and you took it and you ran and you won. What would you say to somebody who is brand new to this? What would you say to someone like me, 30 years old? I want to play a more active part. I want to move into this world.
Get involved in your school boards, and get involved in your councils, your borough council, city council, things like that. That's a great springboard for what I'm doing. I kind of like superseded that and got ahead of that, but that's a great way to get in and see how things go. We need competent people on our school boards, funding our public schools and making decisions for giving kids a basic education, reading, writing, arithmetic type stuff. That we need competent people, because the powers that be are trying to blow up our public education system, and I don't see that being a good thing. And I'm worried about the people that aren't competent, that are making major decisions on these boards. So that's a great way for people to get involved in their local community and on a grassroots foundation, and then can move up. I've seen. I bet you probably like 30% of the legislature, almost 40%, served on a school board or a council before being a representative.
And then opportunities arose where they could take that next step
Yeah,
should they choose to do so.
yeah. People retire. You know what I mean? People quit, go get other jobs, and move on to other things, and things open up. You become part of this political system wherever you live, whatever. Like where I live in Scranton, it's predominantly like 3-1 Democrat. So if you're not a Democrat, it's kind of hard for you to win. You know what I mean? It's just the numbers. It's a numbers game, and you gotta. And then it becomes like where you're from. Like, what does your name sound like? Like where I'm from, like Irish names do really well. So like
Interesting.
it worked well for me, just from the system that I come from. I mean, I'm sure it's different where you're at up in upstate New York, but it's crazy game politics. It really is.
Would you recommend it to people? And if you did recommend it to someone, what type of person would that be?
If your heart's in the right place, you want to make a difference, go for it, man. That's what I tell everybody. And people have asked me about it, and like even people who I'm friends with that personally I didn't think could win. Like there was a guy who came to me I went to high school with that was running for magistrate, and he was not the favorite candidate. All the money was behind another guy, and he asked me, and I said, yo, if your heart tells you to do this, do it. That's all I'm going to tell you. If your heart's telling you to do it, do it. And I'm like, I don't think you can win, but if you think you can win, you should run. And the ran and he won. So I was
Wow.
happy, you know what I mean? Just because I didn't think he could win, and I'm pretty good at predicting winners and losers. And when he won, I was like, his heart was in it, man. He won it
Because his heart was in the right place.
Yeah, and it really brought him there.
So let's wrap this up by talking to the person listening who they've got a business, they're a leader in a company, they don't have the time, or at least they don't perceive they have the time to join the school boards and be a really active part of their community because they're a parent and they've got all these different things going on. What would you say to that person is the best way for them to be a contributing and valuable member of society?
Support people who support your interest. Support the people who support your interest. Find these people making decisions. Business owners. Here's another thing. There's a lot of business owners who get government assistance for projects, for things that they're doing in the community, and they can get a real bang for their buck if they navigate the system and find the right program that fits their mission, and it's pretty everybody complains about programs that help people, like food stamps and things like that, but there's more corporate stuff that helps business owners than anything in government that people don't even know about. So if they're a business owner and they have a project they want to do, there's so many projects, Pennsylvania, New York, that bring business in. Just navigate that system, get your representative to tell you about them and give you the information, and you could see your own money invested and go a long way along with public dollars, which is kind of weird because you wouldn't think that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it exists. It exists.
Support the people who support the ideals that you want to see follow through.
Like solar projects. There's so many like state projects, federal projects that invest in these industries that, there's money sitting there to go into their businesses, and they don't even realize it because they're not part of government, and they don't know, you know, especially a lot of the lobbying firms kind of eat that up with their clients and their businesses. So that element of state government always comes into play. You know, they have lobbyists that basically surf the system for business owners and show them where the money is and help them get it. So
100%. No, that's great advice. So a lot of people who come on these shows and podcasts in general, they've got something to promote, right? They've got a new book, they've got a course, and they're doing it in the name to help people, right? And I've talked to a lot of amazing people who have amazing products that we've promoted. You don't have anything you're promoting. And my question for you is, what do you hope to accomplish by spending an hour this morning? And you've been on shows now for about a month, just sharing your message and talking about things we're talking about now. What do you hope to accomplish? What do you want the people listening to take away? Why are you doing this specific part of what you're doing?
Well, I think it's important that people see that they're like elected officials are pretty everyday people, that we're, you know what I mean, very accessible. I like to be accessible, and that people understand that we're the people that they need to reach out to. If they can't get a hold of somebody at the unemployment place or the unemployment system, or if they need a grant, or the electric company's turning off their power, like, you need to reach out to us. We're an asset to help you. You know, you put us there. So I think that's important that they understand that, whether you're a Republican or whether you're a Democrat, it doesn't matter. We're here to help you and represent you. So
do you think that's very similar across the board or just with you?
I think half of us. There might be almost half, you know.
Okay.
But you need to tell them that too, that they're here to represent you no matter what, and listen, because we do listen.
That's awesome. That's great. What's the best way for people to reach out to you to either do what you just mentioned, or if someone just wants to connect in general?
Social media. Yeah, I'm Facebook, Instagram. On I think I'm Marty Flynn on Instagram, and on my Senate page is Senator Marty Flynn. You can find that on Facebook. You know,
cool. Awesome. Well, links are in the description, guys. So reach out to Marty. This has been a really cool conversation, man. This is very different than anything we've done on the show, and you've challenged me to ask different questions because, again, you're in a different world, right? And it's really cool to see how you found yourself here. And like you said, I don't look up to any man, but you know, I'd say I look up to a lot of different people, right? And we might use different words for that, but I look up to character traits, right? I look up to, this person did this even against these odds that said he couldn't do this. And you're someone to look up to, man. And you're an inspiring guy. And I thank you for being accessible, for coming on the show. And this message is going to get in front of a lot of people who might need to hear it at the exact moment.
Yeah, no, awesome. Thanks for having me. And anything comes up, reach out.
Thank you, sir. Great to have you on. This was a really fascinating conversation to give you an inside look at what the political world really looks like, right? I like how Marty at the end said that he is coming on shows to show that people in this world are everyday people, right? And in this world of social media, and in this, especially like he mentioned, in this very divided world, even if you're not into politics, I'm sure a lot of you who weren't into politics 4 years ago are now, at least in the sense that you're more aware of what's going on. You're bringing your own perspective to things. And Marty's a cool dude. I like him. I'd hang out with him. And, you know, he comes from that cool world. He's put himself in uncomfortable situations, and it's very clear based on the actions that he's taking today. I loved his perspective on goal setting. And it sounds like he doesn't even set goals, right? I'm sure he does in his own ways, but he's more focused on this present moment. And let me ask you, if you were more focused on being excellent in this present moment so that you could capitalize or take advantage of opportunities that come your way, how would your life look different if you planned ahead in that fashion? Awesome conversation. If you found it interesting, please share this show and episode with just one other person who could use it as well. You are the best part of the Be Better team, and without you, our show wouldn't grow. Also, Marty's links are in the description. Be sure to go down there, check him out, follow him on social media, reach out to him if it makes sense to do so. And thank you so much for watching and listening. Until we talk again next time, continue to be better.